We're live. All right, very good. Hello, YouTube. Welcome. Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Todd Hoffman. This is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 369. We hope you're doing well with everything going on. We want to continue to be a platform that promotes positivity, life, hope, a little Star Wars along the way. Today, I know this is crazy talk, but we're talking about Star Wars today. I know we could not help that the summer of '84 was just straight fire, and we've been covering a lot of 40-year anniversary of movies, but we're getting back to the bread and butter here. We're going to be talking about toy collecting surrounding the resurgence of the Power of Force 2 and bleeding into the Phantom Menace and all that fun stuff. But we couldn't do this alone. We have special guest Warren Hayes. Welcome to the show.
Hey everyone.
What's up, man?
So what do you want to, how do you want to kick it off?
we're gonna be talking about Star Wars and the toy collecting. So Miss Carla Jackalone has the night off. Her internet is not working. Heather Allred has a meeting very early in the morning, and she's like, I gotta get sleep, but I want to talk Star Wars. And I was like, just get some sleep. It's okay. And then Aaron Julian, it's his birthday today, so he's not here. So just gonna be me. And I'm glad I got Warren here to help us out with the rest of the show. But before we get started there, I'm going to tease the news. So we got 3 news items for you. We got New Jedi Order, more, your best Kylo Ren impression there, and then Grievous. So those are your 3 news items that we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. But without any further ado, we are going into our main topic. All right, Warren, we just literally met. We're Twitter buddies, and all of a sudden now we're just talking, and I'm like, all right, let's save it for the pod because we're gonna go deep in the rabbit hole here. So let's start off with an easy question. Let's just get into, how did you get into Star Wars?
Well, as the story goes, my dad took me to my first movie when I was 2. That was Star Wars.
Nice.
I had my first Coca-Cola at 2.
Whoa.
My lifelong love of both.
Right.
And so that's where it started. My earliest memories of Star Wars were probably around Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. So I was about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And vividly 83 for Return of the Jedi. And then from there, I just kind of never let it go. So
never let it go. Yeah. Nice. Why do you like Star Wars so much? What's one thing that you just like, man, this is it?
I think there's, if I mean, my main love is always going to be the original trilogy, and I think there's stories that transcend time, and mm-hmm. people from all walks of life can get something from the films. I think it speaks to everybody, and I think it, as a kid, I think it was something I'd never seen before, never envisioned seeing before, and it just blew me away, and I've just never been able to get away from it.
That's awesome. So you're an 80s kid, so you experienced the dark times. So tell me a little bit about how that that transition there for you.
Yeah.
Like, so Star Wars is done.
Well, okay, so 83, I'm getting into G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, 84. These other toy lines are kind of consuming me. I'm into comic books at this point too. There is a Star Wars comic book that did run through 87, but we had one final toy line in 85, the original Power of the Force line. We had Ewoks and droids, action figures, and then we didn't get anything. So it was a long time of darkness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then there was a bright hope. About 95-ish, Hasbro bought Kenner, and Kenner obviously for the 80s had the Star Wars toy line because no one else wanted it, and Kenner's like, yeah, we'll take it, and that basically became the greatest decision they ever made. But it toy making and toy collecting is both competitive business, and so Hasbro bought out Kenner and bought all the licenses they had, and so Hasbro returns with the Star Wars Power of the Force 2 in 95. Where were you? What were you doing? What makes Power of the Force so special to you?
Well, one fun fact before we get to that is that just so everyone knows too, is that Kenner basically had the license for Star Wars forever, and basically as long as they made a payment to Lucasfilm $10,000 a year, they would maintain that license. Well, they lapsed on that. They lapsed on the $10,000 a year because they weren't producing figures anymore. And once Hasbro bought Kenner, they realized this and then had to kind of negotiate again to get the contract back again, make them bid to get it. And luckily they got it, but there was an issue there right away. Like Playmates tried to get it, Mattel tried to get it. Ultimately Hasbro got it. So 95, it's 95 is 94 is a big year because I don't know how far you go into action figures, but 94 is when Spawn came out. 93 is when the comic market crashed. So everyone was speculating on comic books, and when it crashed, they were looking for something else, and the next thing was Spawn. So Spawn was this thing that adult collectors would buy, and it's my belief, and I think other believe the same thing, is that it pushed. Of course, Star Wars would have been successful. There's no doubt. But the FOMO and the collectability of the Star Wars figures was pushed by Spawn. I think Spawn gave it a bigger platform than it originally would have had. And so interesting. 95, the line debuts, and it just launches off this these conventions and comic stores are now selling action figures now because no one's buying comic books anymore. They're not buying 10, 20 copies, hoping they put their kids through college. Hey, maybe it's these action figures. And so, hey, what happened in the 80s? Everyone opened them all. So we're going to keep all these clothes and buy multiples of them. And again, hoping for that payday, 10, 20 years down the line. And so I think a lot of that was involved with the hype.
Yeah, I think you're right there because, for me, I remember just I was in college and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go Toys R Us, had nothing to do. And I go there and there's just the whole row, the whole aisle is just Star Wars figures. I'm like, what is this? Like, what is this? And again, 95, you're almost to the internet. You're kind of in the internet. You're not quite there. So it wasn't like this is something I knew was happening or was happening. It's like, it just was there, and it was like, and what got me, I was like, I saw this dude like just going through pegs, like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? They're all right here. And he's like, I'm looking for a short lightsaber and a long tray. And I'm like, what's Camel Gun? And he's like, yeah. So, they started manufacturing these and there's already like chase figures because they're still working out the quality kinks. And so there's long sabers, there's short sabers and long trays, there's all these kind of different things. And he's like, here you go, here's one that I already have. And I'm like, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, I'm in, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a lot of word of mouth. It was early internet, but I was on Star Wars news groups.
A news group?
Dedicated to Star Wars, and people were trading, people were talking. That's where we got like what assortments were coming out, what the case breakdowns were, what stores were getting them. That's how we kind of communicated in the beginning. It was a crazy time, but it got around at people. I mean, there's lines at stores every morning. I mean, it was just madness. I mean,
it was kind of like, it hit hard for me because like still, again, in college, not making a lot of cash, but there was still there were like $2.50, something like that. $4.99. Okay. Maybe in my dreams I'm thinking of like
80s
$2.
It's $2.
80s money, it's $2, right? Exactly. So $4.99, so you get two figs, $10, and if you went to a trade show, it was like 10 a pop, so it's still, still like 20, but yeah, it was crazy time, man. Like, just
yeah, I was deep into it. I mean, I was not making very much money at the time, and I was charging up my credit cards, and I said I can't maintain this anymore. And so I kind of just learned what figures to get and which ones I could sell for more money, and that's what helped pay for my collection, because I wouldn't have been able to. It paid off my credit cards. I mean, it was, it was a lot of work. I mean, you go to Target at 8, you go to Toys R Us at 9:30. If you have a Walmart or Kmart, you go there in between. Same guys are there every morning. It's it's a run to the aisle. It's Black Friday every morning for toys. I mean, it was a crazy time.
And clearly you had the same, like, I knew my Toys R Us guys. I knew my Walmart guys. Right. I was like, hey, when's the next shipment coming in? And like you said, finding out not only what new toys are coming out, but then what is that wave breakdown was key, because you could almost, I mean, I got to the point where I'd like, okay, if I saw these kind of these cards, I would know that there's at least one or two of the ones that I really want,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like the first assortment that came out, C-3PO is on the back, but C-3PO and Princess Leia didn't come out initially. So there's rumors that, it's out and it's just a $100 figure when it actually wasn't released yet. But when we got case breakdowns, we knew, the first assortment didn't have those figures. They were going to be released later. And because of that, those figures end up, skyrocketing because people kind of this false demand for it. But
why do you think, like, that first couple waves, Luke looks like He-Man? I remember Darth Vader had like the guns out. I was like, dude. And then like Lando has like an 8-pack. Why do you think they went with the more, I would say, comic booky style than more movie realistic? Do you have any insight on that? I've always been like fascinated.
I don't have any insight, but I think as far as what I think, it's just that I definitely think they were, the comic book art at the time was very extreme, and so I think that played into it. And I think they were trying to outdo, Playmates and Mattel, and so I think this. Yeah, I find it strange that Lucasfilm went ahead with this. It's very strange because they would become very picky about what was licensed and how things would look later on. But that's my best guess about why it was that way. I mean, we still bought them. I mean, we couldn't help ourselves.
But. Why is Vader got like 32-inch pythons, man? He is just jacked up,
Right.
I was because they, as this toy line progressed from 95 to 2000, essentially, they did change. It did change, and obviously the how they looked and what proportions they were started to kind of be more movie realistic than just the comic booky. But that first wave is just, I mean, Princess Leia is like, woof. She looks like she's just rough. She's a little rough.
Even if you get into next wave with Boba Fett, Lando, Luke, X-Wing, they're all pretty buff still. I think it took a few waves, maybe even we get to green cards is when I think it's started to kind of slim things down a little bit.
But one of the things that I think was very interesting about this line is that, I think the original set 80 had 83 figs or something. I got a poster with all of them. 96 or something. But then they started releasing ones that were not ever released before in the original Kenner line. So they kind of like, okay, we're going to try to basically recreate our 80s with most of the same toys that they had in the 80s, with the original Kenner line. But then, they released like a Grand Moff Tarkin, and you're like, we've never had this figure, and I think that's where the appeal really came, is like they went deep. They were like, okay, any Cantina member, I'm like, oh my God, yes, please,
Yeah. Well, you got to remember too, you know, you look at 97 is a new contract year, licensed contract with Lucasfilm and Hasbro, a multi-billion-dollar contract. So much so that the next year their action figures start to increase in price and the tooling gets better. I mean, these are, you know, they were trying to impress Lucasfilm again. And I think that now they're looking at more accuracy and things like that. That's what looked like what had happened.
Right. And then obviously 97, we get the special editions. So that also kind of made a big push, I think, with just toy collecting. Like Star Wars is now in the theater. You know, again, this is, you know, pretty much toy 101. You know, TV shows on, toys in the aisle, kids gonna watch show and buy toys, you know. And same thing with movies. I mean, movies on the screen, where's the toys at for that movie? And now that market has already kind of started without any movies, and now special edition comes on, and now you got more, I would say, casual folks like, hey, yeah. And now they're like very accessible. Obviously not like every figure, but like most of the common stuff is out there and you can get pretty easily, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, that it was most of like the secondary market for these figures were built on FOMO. It was wanting to be the first person to have it. If as soon as it dropped at the store, the first reports that we see, it's to have it first. That's really what everyone was paying for. They weren't, they were going to eventually get it. They just wanted it now. And so that's what kind of drove those secondary market prices at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And like similar to, you know, I did this with my G.I. Joes. I did this where you send out the points, the proof of purchase. They had a couple mail away, you know, figures. And it's just like, oh, okay. You know, like, so it's like now it matters that you have like the proof of purchase, which, you know, nobody used to use, but now it becomes this kind of almost like another commodity to say, okay, I buy this 6 figs, I get this 1 fig, you know, free. And it's like, they knew what they were doing. They were not dumb.
Well, that Han Stormtrooper, that first mail away with the Fruit Loops boxes,
Fruit Loops.
My local grocery store was having those proofs of purchases ripped off the boxes a lot. So people were stealing them just to mail away for the figure, and they weren't legitimately buying the boxes of cereals. I mean, I'm not saying nobody was, but it was definitely
right. Yeah. But you're the you know, the stalker's like, we got some packages ripped here.
No one.
It wasn't cereal. No rat. It was no rat. It was like Shredder because it's precise, you know. Boom, boom, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they had the Frito-Lay Obi-Wan, you know, the Born Monk was like I think that was the internet one. They were going deep, man.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of obscure characters and stuff that people wanted, and you know, I think that variety drove people back too. But again, I think Spawn really launched this. I think a lot of people really believed that those figures would be an investment. It wasn't just collecting. They were buying multiples as an investment, and because it was the next collectible, and that's what people were doing. And a lot of people unfortunately lost a lot of money because they were paying high dollar for these figures.
Yeah, I tried to stay more retail, but I was definitely grabbing 2. I was grabbing 2. I'm like, I ain't dumb anymore, you know, but like, that's the thing. I think everybody was doing that. And it's like, oh, okay, they're not as rare as we thought, you know. But I think too, that's what makes the original Kenner line so, you know, highly collectible, because again, they didn't make a huge run. They were always playing catch up because again, they had the mail away, and you know, like they had the IOU thing. They were always behind. They were behind, you know, they didn't get in front of it. And so they were always playing catch up, and there was the demand they could never reach the demand, you know, where I think on this run from definitely 95 to 2000, they were just going out. They were releasing figs all the time.
Right. They outsold Spawn. I mean, Spawn was the #1 figure for a couple of years, but Star Wars just blew them out of the water. I mean, starting lineups were big, but again, Star Wars was Star Wars or Hot Wheels. If you're running in the store, this is what you're looking for every morning, and that's
because you bring up a good point, because like the Hot Wheels guys are just as fanatic as the Star Wars guys as far as just finding the right one, finding those chase figure, chase things and all that kind of stuff. And they're pegging through the things, and it just makes it fun. Do you have like a favorite figure from that line?
Probably still the Boba Fett from '95. I had a trade. I had a She-Dragon from the Savage Dragon line, and I met this guy out front of Toys R Us, and I traded him 1-for-1, even though the She-Dragon was a little bit more. But I didn't care. I wanted that figure so badly. It's the only time I paid more than retail for any of those figures. But
I gotta have Boba Fett.
Yeah, the mystery was still alive at that point. We didn't know a lot about him, so it's still my favorite character, and definitely my favorite figure at that time.
Didn't he have a chase variant too? I thought he had something with the closed. Was he the closed hand or the circle thing or something?
He had the half circles and the full circles on his hands.
Yes,
on the gloves, and then sometimes or at the time we thought it was a Bantha skull, but the Bantha skull would be missing on his shoulder, shoulder armor. These are just factory paint mistakes. Other than the half circles, those were actually production changes.
Okay.
The other, like the missing emblems, are just mistakes, but people would pay a lot of money for those. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right. See, this is where like comic people are like, what are you talking about here? And it's like, okay, let me tell you something. Like, again, when they started making these stuff, they had to get the quality down, and they're good quality figures, but there are some painting differentials. And like I said at the beginning, like the lightsabers, they were all different sizes. Like one was like normal size, and then you would get like this really huge, like 3-inch, lightsaber, and then you would get the short saber, and like they were just trying to figure out. And I think they were producing so much, that's where you get some of kind of these little blips in what's on the shelf.
Yeah, and they definitely, the lightsaber changes was a big one. I mean, everyone complained about the size of the figures, but the lightsabers are way too long, so they made an adjustment. And it at the time it was a big deal. Today it's not. The transition packaging is still a high dollar item on many of those figures, but it's the other ones, just like the long saber, just doesn't have the same value it used to. But it's a very niche market these days. There's a lot of weird variations I didn't even know about, even all the figures that I saw in my time. But
you're like, I didn't know about this one. What, like, do you have a recent example that you came across?
Red card holograms. There was, I think there's 20 total. Some of them have never been seen. There's been a sale of a Lando like twice in the past 20 years. I mean, it's just, some of these red card holograms are just so rare. They're
so you're talking it's not the green card, it's a red card.
Red card with the hologram on it. So it was a transition period. Yeah.
No way. Oh wow.
Yes, sir.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy. That's
I didn't at the time. I never looked. I never made a difference to me, because a lot of people didn't want the hologram, and so people were purposely removing them to try to get more money. But nowadays, people are hunt for these strange variations, like these red card holograms are very valuable, very, very hard to find.
So on the packaging, it's a sticker, but you're saying that some of them were a hologram looking.
It's a hologram sticker.
Yeah,
all of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So it was some kind of transition between when they were moving. It was the Sand Trooper Jawa wave, Luke Stormtrooper. That wave is the first wave that was available in both colors on the day of release, on Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And so it confused everybody, because no one understood why there was two colors and which one was worth more. And
it was
chaos.
Now I got to get 4. I got to get these 2 on this card and these 2 on that card. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how crazy we were, but I think again, unfortunately, it comes down to just like baseball cards and comic books. Like it just gets the market just gets too saturated. Do you think that's
exactly
what happened here?
Yeah, episode 1 was a demise of the secondary market of those figures. I mean, it just destroyed everything. By 2000, there's a red card Obi-Wan where they updated the photo on the back to a half photo from a full photo. So the half photo is the first release, and so that figure was like a $50 figure at the time. But by 2000, it was a $5 figure. It just didn't. It had no value anymore.
So, I think, and in fact, that's where we were when we started talking on Twitter. Was like right around Phantom Menace, the re-release, and it's like Phantom Menace. They produced so many figures, like it was like just too much,
Yeah.
Like I think that's where it does. That's where the market kind of falls,
Yeah, it was. I mean, by the end of the year, those figures are on clearance. I mean, that's never it hasn't happened since the 80s.
Yeah.
What contributed to that is it was a glut of figures. They made way too many figures. I mean, the figures were the first 3 waves of figures were produced, packaged, and ready to go in '98. They were months and months and months ahead of time. They were ready for what they expected to be this huge launch. I mean, they knew it, and then they just overdid it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, the marketing for Phantom Menace was insane. They just like anything, like obviously very coveted license. It's still a very coveted license, but like it was still really well guarded in the 80s and early 90s. But then when Phantom Menace came out, they're just like, anything that we get Star Wars on, we're going to get on. And I think that also contributed to like too much, it's just too much. Yeah, because like you would go to Toys R Us and the figures would be in bins, like just bins. And like, as a collector, it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to bend the card. And, like needs to be on a peg, man,
Well, I mean, I don't know if did you attend Midnight Madness for the first time?
Of course I did. I have my plaque right there.
I mean, I don't know how your Toys R Us was. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But they had like plastic swimming pools, kiddie pools, and they were just dumping cases and cases of figures all night long in these kiddie pools. And, it was a madhouse, and people were buying handfuls, like multiples of everything. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
As I'm buying like all these figures, I'm like, I have no idea who these people are, but I'm just gonna buy them, and figure out that they're really cool. I do remember like the C-3PO, the naked C-3PO, the paint was like one of my favorite figures. The painting on that is just like so good. I'm just like, wow, this is great. But like Darth Maul looked kind of funky. He was kind of short a little bit. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to pick him up. And, but like, I don't know. It's just like, there's so many figures that really at the end of the day, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, there was definitely some questionable figures, but I mean, Darth Maul was definitely a popular one. Everyone bought multiples of that, hoping it would cash in. And then when he died in the movie, it kind of just killed that. But
well,
at my Toys R Us, the 12-inch Darth Maul was the hottest figure, and I was first in line at my store, and I wasn't able to get it because people ran past me. And one guy that worked at the Target that worked in the toy department had every single 12-inch Darth Maul, and that's all he bought, and he left. And so no one got a 12-inch Darth Maul at that store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those guys. Whoop, like just well, so that's the other thing. Part of the Force 2, the figure is Darth Vader's head. That's what's prominent on the package. Very clean design. And then they kind of mirrored that again going to Phantom Menace. It's Darth Maul. Darth Maul is like part of the packaging. And it really pushed the color scheme and everything, the art, everything is Darth Maul, and then like you said, he dies, and it's like, what the what the hell, man? Like, what are you doing here?
Well, they really pushed the contact technology on us, and they raised the figures $2.
Yeah,
they were $6.99 and $99.
I still, I have like, my Rick Oli, they're really bad. We did a little thing during the Phantom Menace run, like we try to guess what they're saying, and like part of it, you're an 80s kid, so Speak and Spell. It kind of has that Speak and Spell kind of going on for it, but then some of it is like they didn't want to pay the actors the licensing, so it's like Obi-Wan doesn't sound like Obi-Wan because it's like they're not using Ewan McGregor to do these voice lines. It's just a bizarre little thing that they want you to handle.
Yeah.
But I still have a lot of them, man. So,
well, I can tell you a really cool. I mean, if you're interested, I can tell you about how I got Phantom Menace figures 6 months early. If you want to hear about
yes, please tell me.
So December 98, I was on eBay and I saw this lot of 3 figures. It was Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul loose.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they might have been fake or whatever, but I bid on them and I tried to win them. And I think I paid like $200 for all 3 figures.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And again, this is 6 months early. I was hesitant because at the time there was no PayPal. We either paid by money order, cash, or Western Union. So this guy that I bought the figures from was from Malaysia, and I had to pay, by Western Union. So I didn't know if I'd ever get the figures. I still have the box, the white box that he mailed it to me in. I still have that box.
That is amazing. I love it.
But I got them, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't believe I had these figures early. I took the Darth Maul and I took it to Target that next morning, and everybody came, crowded my car, and I was showing it off, obviously, because
You're like, here's my Darth Maul. But it was loose. Those were 3 loose figures.
Right. $200. So then a few weeks later, I'm like, you know what? I can't afford to keep these figures for $200. So I kept the Darth Maul and I sold the other 2 back on eBay, and I sold them, I think, the pair for like $200. And I met a future friend through that transaction who lives in Seattle. And I was able to get a lot of figures through the guy in Malaysia for a few months. I was able to get packaged figures, loose figures, stuff that again wasn't coming out till May, but I was getting it December, January, February, and they weren't
before the movie release. This is before. Yeah. Okay.
And so, my friend was in. I was getting prototypes. I was getting package samples. I was getting all these things, and I was selling a lot here and there. And whatever I could get my friend, he was my first priority. So whatever I could kind of mediate these deals, I would get him whatever he had. And then that guy kind of fell off the map, and I get an email from this guy, and he's like, I need to come and pick up the figures that you have left over. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So this guy, I was living in an apartment at this time. So this guy comes to my apartment. I've never met him before. And he comes in, I greet him into my apartment. And then there's this guy kind of leaning against the wall in the hallway. And I'm like, I know you from somewhere. And ends up being an actor named James Duval. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Okay.
He was in Independence Day.
Yeah.
And this actor is at my house to get action figures. I didn't understand, but I'm like, okay, so they came and picked up these figures for the guy in Malaysia, and I kind of lost that whole avenue. But then like a month later in a news group, I found another guy that lived locally that was getting him from China. So I just had a new kind of like person to get them from. And so I was
right.
worry about shipping or anything like that. So again, I was getting all the stuff early, I sent like the first 2 waves and the Naboo fighter to Rebel Scum so they could photograph it, and then they sent it back to me. So they actually had photos of it months prior. I sent that stuff to Philip, and he took pictures of it, and that was early 99.
Yeah.
And But yeah, I was getting the stuff early, and then by the time I sold everything off, and by the time Midnight Madness came around, I wasn't all that excited because I already had everything. I mean, I still
dude, yeah,
I bought everything at $6.99 and not $100 or $200 a figure, but it was an exciting time to get that stuff early.
So what was it? Was it just really the appeal of getting it first?
I think that's what it's always been. And this took it to a new level. And to me, going to the stores every day didn't matter anymore because I was getting them in the mail, months ahead. So
right. You're like, hey, this is like future Amazon stuff. I love just getting things in the mail. Do you think, like, again, speculating, he probably worked at the plant or something? I mean, he had a.
That's my guess.
Yeah,
that's my guess. But
yeah,
because like probably stuff that didn't meet the QA requirements because everything gets QA'd, so it's probably stuff that just got thrown out, and he just whatever. I never asked, so I just paid and got the figures and was happy, and
it's very interesting though. So, that's a cool tale. That's pretty awesome. But I mean, because you got to think if it's coming from Malaysia, that's probably a manufacturing plant. Because like you said, they had this all ready to go for the launch of, and that seems right around that timeline. They would have to ship all those over to the US to be ready for that May deployment,
Yeah, because everything gets come by boat. They don't fly action or toys. They don't fly toys over because it costs so much. So the travel time by boat is so long. By the time it gets here, it has to clear customs, has to go through distribution, then it gets to the stores at some point. It's not like an easy transaction. It takes months of planning.
Yeah. And two, like I'm pretty sure like a normal toy, just even a normal tow line from start to finish, they have to be a year in advance, like again, prototype, like you said, art, prototyping, all that kind of stuff, get the manufacturer going, and that time from sea to to the US, it all takes equate to get it on the shelves on that day,
right?
So all right, so fast forward past Phantom Menace, we're in the present time. What the heck is going on with collecting? Why are there not toys on the shelf? What's happening, Warren? Tell me your take on this.
So unfortunately, like the 3 3/4 line, which everybody loves, that is our age, is phasing out because either we're aging out or we're no longer interested, and kids aren't collecting action figures anymore. If they do consume them at all, it's Ninja Turtles, it's dinosaurs.
Yeah,
they're in the manga right now. I mean, it's just they're not collecting figures like we did, and there's no way for it to get passed down anymore. We try to pass it down to our kids, hoping that they would take on our mantle, but unfortunately, they're just not interested. So these declining sales figures that are happening are because that 3 3/4 line is eventually going to be gone because there isn't going to be anyone left to buy them. And
I mean,
I think Hasbro really wants the Black Series to kind of take over.
Yeah.
From a cost perspective.
Greater detail, obviously, a lot of posability. I mean, they look great, but also it's like $30 a pop, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of cash for, I think that's where, like, for me personally, like as I went from college into adulthood and having kids and all that stuff, it's like, dude, I can't afford this anymore. Like, not only the space thing, but then it is a hustle. Like you said, there's a hustle with it all, I got so nerdy, bro. Like, I created a database and I had the database print me out reports of like what I needed carded versus loose. And like, I would, and then I had like, Hasbro started to do something on the website where they would show the figures coming out and the waves. And so I would know the wave number. I put it all in the database, man. I was like, had this whole thing, but yeah, I just think, like you said, is that kids just don't play with toys as much as because they have the electronics, and
well, I think there's a difference. There's a difference. They consume action figures, whereas we collect action figures. There's a difference. And a lot of the people that collect like the Sync Station line, a lot of those people open them up. We're talking about Marvel Legends also. These people open the figures and display them. They're not all packaged, collectors. It's a different mentality. So those, we come from a mentality of keeping everything in the package and maybe another loose if you like the figure enough. But they have a different idea of it, and the posability.
Yeah, I think that's true because it's like that is because we know how much the value of those original 80 figures are, and we missed that because, again, if I was going to go back to future, man, I'm not going to 1955, man. I'm going to like 83. Get me those toys, and
I honestly 86. Yeah. I go to 86. I go to Australia and I get all the Anakin Skywalkers for $1 a piece. That's what I would. That's probably the most valuable production figure that you can get. That's what I would do.
It's an Anakin Skywalker, the original Power of the Force
Force with the coin.
Yeah. I thought it was the droids, whatever that guy's name is, Vix or Vox or.
Because he's definitely very rare, obviously.
Yeah.
If I could buy them in bulk, like you couldn't buy Vix in bulk. And
no,
the next figure from that's probably Yak Face.
Yak Face. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think figures from Australia are worth a lot of money. So
did they have a tri-label or was it regular?
No, it was US card, but they had like a Gamorrean Guard with a Gamorrean Guard coin, which they didn't have here. They had a Nikto that didn't have a Nikto coin, and they had an AT-AT driver, which didn't have an AT-AT driver coin. They had different figures than we had here.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well then that sounds good. Let's go to Australia, mate. That's cool. 86.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, but I think again, like growing up in the 80s and knowing that you missed that, obviously, that's where that kind of collector mentality happened. And unfortunately now, I mean, retail space is very tight and it's almost boutique-y. Like even at Target, it's like there's not a lot of space, I mean, like I said, when the Toys R Us, like it was like an aisle and probably one aisle both sides of just like stuff. All the dewbacks you want, all the stuff you want,
We're in the pre-order model now. So, McFarlane, Hasbro, everything they do is pre-order.
Even Mattel, has the HasLab thing. What do you feel about the what do you feel about like Hasbro doing that kind of like fun, crowdsourcing, if you will, on some of these larger items?
I mean, I think it's a good way to get things that wouldn't normally be released because of the costs involved. But again, the crowd, the HasLab stuff is so interesting to me because I don't understand the people that don't back it and then buy it a year later for 2 times the price. I don't. Why didn't you just back it? And it's not like you didn't know because you knew. I mean, it's very strange to me. It's really weird that you've been through this like 4 or 5 times and you're still buying it for more than retail. I don't understand the mentality behind that.
Like what you're saying is just back it if you want it. Don't wait till it's out and then spend twice as much as you would if you backed it in the first place.
Well, a lot of things I hear on different like Facebook groups of people are like, I just don't have the funds right now. And I understand that, but you're saying you're willing to pay more in a year just because you might have more that it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's happening. So
yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so you have your crystal ball out. You're doing your force. You're using the force. Looking in the future, where's collecting going? What do you think?
Again, I think 20, 30 years, 3 3/4 line is gone. Retro
Okay.
line, vintage collection, I think it's just going to age out. They're not going to be able to make the numbers to be profitable anymore, because people are, unless we miraculously just pass this down to younger kids and show them collecting and they latch onto it. I just don't see it continuing. I mean, I think 6-inch line, across lots of different IPs are going to do well. I think maybe into 20, 30 years, but I think 3 3/4 demise is coming.
Oh,
yeah.
So sad.
It is.
It is sad. Yeah. But I think again, it's the detail and accuracy is what kind of wins it over, I guess, more than
the vintage collection is pretty detailed and accurate too. But you're looking at a $16.99 figure now, where for a 3 3/4-inch figure, and Black Series is $25. So, I mean, it costs Hasbro almost the same to make the same figure. So, to them, they would rather make Black Series and sell it to you than 3 3/4.
So you're saying the manufacturing cost is almost the same for each.
That's what I've heard. I've heard tooling, packaging. It's almost nothing in comparison. So to them, it's more profitable to make Black Series than it is to make the vintage collection.
Interesting. Wow, crazy. Well, I hope you're wrong, but I think also you might be right in the fact that I think more of this stuff, especially from a collecting perspective, is going to those backing kind of, the crowdfunding, because it's like, if we're going to make this really niche item, we want to make sure it sells, and we're kind of pleasing the fan base and making sure that what we're making is acceptable to the larger collector community. It's very safe. It's a very safe way to make toys, instead of just like, here, you need to buy this. Because I think the other thing is, like, especially now, it's like, well, too many people get burnt, right? They're buying all this stuff, and now they want to make sure it's something that they really, really want before they throw down some cash for it, So,
well, I think they've also, probably in the last 10 years, they've realized that they're not marketing to kids anymore, and so it's full on, adults, and they can do these crowd funds, and adults with disposable income can afford them. So it's the right kind of time to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the other thing. Like, most of who's buying it is still adults, So, yeah.
Well, they keep trying these kid lines, and adults just keep buying them. So it's like, I don't know why they keep trying, but they do, and because the only people buying them are adults. They're not children any longer.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I mean, again, when you're looking at, again, what's out there now, I mean, He-Man's back out, G.I. Joe's back out. There's like a bigger G.I. Joes and Super 7 G.I. Joes, and like there's all these kind of different variations, and I'm like, holy cow. And then I look at the price tag and I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's just like, these are really cool, but I don't want to spend this money for Snake Eyes, Could have bought like 20 of these, So, but yeah, this has been fun, because, like, for me, like, again, like, Timothy Zahn got me back into Star Wars, like the books, but the Power of the Force line, just like it, I was full in at that point. I'm just like, I love Star Wars. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm going to do it. I went totally in. I think it's just a real anchor for me. And obviously collecting there's emotional component to me. And it's like you said, there's just long lines, meeting everybody. It's very organic, and I think that's what makes this line super, super cool.
That's a weird time too, because people of all ages were buying those figures. It wasn't like we are now, where we're kind of pigeonholed in a certain demographic of the age group. But I mean, look at then, there was kids teenagers, people in their 20s and later buying the figures for multiple reasons, and mostly to collect them. So
I think too, still not total internet. So like there's that communal part that's the kind of that, and again, not to use tribalism, but like it's like, hey, this is my tribe of collectors, and I'm going to meet you. And like you said, you see the same people, and you get to know like, oh, this guy is one that grabs them all, and he is a seller. Like he's going to go to, these auctions, or he's going to go to a flea market and try to, make a ton more money. It's like, okay. So,
well, eBay was birthed around 96 too. So it helped the secondary market tremendously too.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. There you go. Well, like I said, it's been awesome to talk through this. It's been great to just kind of see again, it just made the Star Wars license so much stronger in that right in that time. It just like it really propelled the idea of making the special editions, and then that led into Phantom Menace. It just ran some the end of the dark time into more Star Wars,
and when you put Star Wars back on the map,
it does.
You can't disagree with that.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, we could talk for hours about this, but we're gonna put a little bow on that. It's been so fun reminiscing. But we got to get to some news of the week. All right. I know this is it's going to be surprising, but Daisy Ridley says she has Graves' disease. Do you know about this? Did you read about this?
No.
Okay. I don't even know what Graves' disease is. Like, I don't even know what this is. But this was in a recent interview. So she's 32 and admitted that she got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder in September of 2023 after experiencing hot flashes, racing heart, and weight loss and fatigue. Okay. The disease also caused the thyroid gland. And so now she's just talking about like, I was tired, but I'm so young and all that kind of stuff. So this is in the latest like Women's Health magazine. This is where it's coming from. But she just said that here's the quote. Here's the, I've always been health conscious. Now I'm trying to more be well-being conscious. So saying, hey, I got to get a little bit more mentally right. And poor Daisy, she got, we weren't nice to her.
No,
I don't think. Well, it sounds like she is on the up and up, but yeah. What do you feel about the new movie that she's gonna do?
My intention is to always watch all Star Wars and just for myself. And so
yes.
I watched the sequels. I'm not a fan of them. I don't hate them. It's not for me. So
yeah,
I don't need to tell other people that they're wrong for liking it. I just won't watch them anymore. I can just watch the original trilogy and be completely satisfied. So
yeah, dude, I hear you. Okay, next up, this is coming from dorksideoftheforce.com. Star Wars Celebration Japan reveals more guests. So if you're not familiar with Star Wars Celebration, it's just that. It's a celebration of fans everywhere. So here is the latest additions is Alan Tudyk, who plays K2SO, Manny Jacinto, who is recently featured in The Acolyte as the Stranger, and Daniel Logan. He is the second Boba Fett.
Second actor,
young Boba Fett. But yeah, there you go. Star Wars Japan will be April 18th through the 20th in 2025. Warren, have you ever been to a Star Wars celebration?
I went to the one in LA. So I think that was 3 or 4. So
okay.
That was
nice.
It was fun. And I went to the one in Anaheim. I think that was 2015, 16.
Okay.
Where they debuted the trailer. I think that was 2015.
Yeah.
So that was the extent of my
celebration. Hey, man, some people have not got to any. You got to 2. That's great. That's awesome. Well,
yeah.
Was it a good experience for you?
You know, I used to frequent the San Diego Comic-Con, and so
oh, really?
It's different than that. So if you're into all Star Wars, it's great. I loved it for that reason. But it's definitely just a different feeling and environment than it would be if you've been to Comic-Con. So,
dude, San Diego Comic-Con is like literally on my bucket list. Every year I'm just like, oh, I need to get there. I want to get there. How many times have you been?
17 straight years. 17 straight years. So
you did?
Yeah.
Wow. And is it everything and more?
It's, once Hollywood got down there, it kind of diminished it. But I mean, there used to be great parties that were easier to get into. The exclusives were easier to get to. Hall H was easier to get into. Now you have to camp out for almost anything. It's hard to get tickets. It's hard to get a hotel.
Yeah.
It's difficult for most people to go. So
yeah,
I had a good run. So
you're like, I was doing it when it was still underground. It wasn't so cool, man.
I was doing it when you could still walk up and buy a ticket. You can't do that anymore. So.
Hey, you want to go to San Diego? Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do a Comic-Con,
Good luck with that. Yeah.
Good luck with that. Yeah. That's like going to the movies and just showing up. Like, I don't know, let's see what's playing. It's like, oh wait. Who are you?
And lottery system. Parking's a lottery system. Hotels are a lottery system. So if you don't get everything in sync, you can't do one or the other thing. I mean,
they're all lottery systems now?
Oh yeah.
My gosh.
It's very difficult for most people to go.
So. Interesting. Yeah. So it's kind of almost like you need to know somebody and or just pray that you got all the lottery, like you win all the lottery stuff,
That's true. If you get every single one of them.
Okay, well, this is a great segue into more depressing news. So this is coming from IGN.com, and it says, Justin Simeon says, letting go of Star Wars Lando series demanded a true grieving process. The project changed hands last year and is now being developed as a movie. Justin Simeon has shared a grief over Disney decision to scrap his Star Wars Lando series in favor and turning it into a movie. Simeon was attached to write and helm the planned Disney Plus series centered around young Lando Calrissian, played by Daniel Glover. Told in Collider, he found it difficult to let the project go, especially since it was well into its development and already laid some significant groundwork. He's saying it was pretty developed. There was a Bible. There was a concept art. There were scripts. It just wasn't meant to be. Here, it's like, you have to really face it. He added about our experience. It's true grief. I've never had a child. I never lost a child, but it's what I imagine the pain might be like. You pour so much of your heart into soul of something, but ultimately you don't have control over whether it lives or dies. It's a true grieving process.
Wow.
What do you think about this direction? Do you think this is a good thing? It just
seems like there's some inconsistency going on. I think they really need to rein it in and start sticking to projects that they keep announcing.
I mean, I'm not here to bash KK, but like, you're the cancel project list is longer than the actual list. I think that's a problem,
Yeah.
I mean,
but one thing you got to realize though, is Kathleen Kennedy isn't George Lucas. She was never going to be George Lucas. At the end of the day, Kathleen Kennedy answers to Bob Iger. He answers to a board. George Lucas answered to nobody. He was the final word on anything Star Wars. If he said it was being made, it was going to be made. Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of hate towards Kathleen Kennedy when the responsibility isn't all hers. I mean, she does have some accountability for that, or has to have some.
Right.
But
right. But you do. Yeah, you do make a good point. And one of the things that is very surprising is, speaking about Star Wars Celebration, they get up on stage. I forget where that was at. And they're like, okay, here's the 3 movies, right? We're kind of staying in current timeline with Dave Filoni. We're going to do this new Jedi Order thing with Daisy. And then we're going all the way back to the beginning of Dawn of the Jedi, or whatever it's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, they bring out the 3 showrunners, like, hey, yeah, that's great. Okay, great. The next movie that's actually going to be in theaters is this Mandalorian Grogu movie. And it's like, that wasn't on the roadmap. And I think that is a Bob Iger move. That's just like, we're cashing in on the only thing that seems to be working right now. And that's that Grogu baby. And we're just going to get so much Grogu baby, Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for art to kind of bloom if you keep holding things to the way they should be, or you obviously you want to hit every time. Of course, but you need to take some chances sometimes. You need to start telling stories that might appeal to somebody. You can't just pigeonhole yourself. You can't cash in every time. How long is that going to last? It's not going to last forever. People are going to be tired of it.
Well, and if you just check boxes, there's no creativity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just, we need to appease every demographic and every, all this different stuff. It's like, it just stymies creativity,
Definitely.
I don't care if it's a boy or girl or whoever, or an alien or whatever. Just make the story good. And if you make the story good, those things will happen organically. And you don't have to be like, oh, we need this person, or we need this type of person. Or it's like, I think that's where you get in trouble, when you're trying to just like appease everybody so you can make some money,
Well, I mean, if you think about like the George Lucas's sequel trilogy, it was going to be very, very different. I mean, a lot of the elements of what he wanted we did see it, but I mean, he wanted something different. He didn't want the same things. And he's willing to take risks, and we would probably follow him for it. I mean, yes, there was backlash because the prequels, and look, that's where Disney and Lucasfilm panicked for Force Awakens. They said, look, we're going to throw out what we bought from George, and we're going to make a movie that that feels like A New Hope, so that you're all happy and you're all going to be happy. And that didn't happen exactly the way they hoped. I mean,
well, we were happy and it sold gangbusters, but they forgot the most important piece. You got to tie this all together.
Right.
Right. They definitely were like, we're going to make something safe that everybody likes, which it is. And it's for itself. It stands alone. It's great. But once you like really look at it, you're like, oh, it's kind of like Force Awakens, kind of like A New Hope, with a new paint, but going into that, going into and just experiencing it the first time, it's like, oh, this is great. I really like it. And then when you really think about it, it's like, oh, it's A New Hope. That's why I like it.
Exactly.
But I think I really like Donald Glover in Solo, and I thought he was really good. I think it's a great character to explore, but they talked about the same kind of thing, like Obi-Wan was going to be a movie, and then they turned in the series, and I think that kind of was sluggish too. And now you're taking something that could be told in TV, and now it's going to be a movie. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Obi-Wan definitely should have been a film. They just overextended themselves.
Overextended. Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
you didn't have enough material, or again, it's just safe. Like spend 2 episodes like with depressed Obi-Wan, like just like PTSD Obi-Wan, just like he's just thinking about how much he screwed up. And no one wants to spend time on that, but you should, because that's exactly what he's going through. It would have been, like they did it a little bit like when he had the dreams or whatever, but it's like you could have literally spent a whole episode or 2 of just him being like, I hate my life and I really don't want to watch this kid, but I'm going to, and I really screwed up and I wish Anakin wasn't dead. And
there's plenty of adventures he could have gone to on Tatooine. I mean, there's plenty he could have done there.
Yeah. And, yeah, I know.
And just forcing him to meet Vader when he never did kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but
yeah,
it's what everyone wanted, right? So
right. It's like, oh, you didn't mean what you meant in A New Hope, but maybe kind of
a certain point of view, right?
Right, exactly. You're catching on. So, all right. Well, there you go. That's our 3 news items. Now it's time to move into Katina Chat. All right, this is part of the show where we talk about everything geeky and weird going in our lives. Warren, what have you been up to? What's been geeky and weird for you?
Nothing really. Just collecting here and there. Just nothing too consistent. Just picking up a piece here and there, and rearranging my room a little bit here, and that's pretty much the extent of my geekiness.
Do you have a toy room or a Star Wars room? Or
I have a lot in here, and then I have some in another room too, but not to the extent I used to.
Right.
I mean, nothing like you have there. I wish I still had everything, even though it doesn't really have any value anymore. But I wish I still had all that stuff, just for the memories and nostalgia. But
so that's part of it. It's like like everything you see in the back, I got a double of, and to the point where it's like my basement is looking like Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. It's just like, oh, this is the warehouse where you just can't find stuff, So, have you ever been to Rancho Obi-Wan?
I have not, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's on the bucket list too.
Yeah, he Sansweet, before he worked for Lucasfilm, we had in LA, we had a comic book convention, a monthly one at the Shrine Auditorium, and I'd see him there a lot. And he would buy, he knew all the dealers there, and he would be buying stuff. And that's
he's definitely, I mean, he's like the creme of the creme, the cream of the crop. He's that relational collector where he created his own network to get his stuff, It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's
so you've been there?
Definitely on no, I need to go bucket list. Yeah, just do it. I'm just gonna go to Cali and just do it all, man. San Diego, Sansweet. We'll do a little Rancho Obi-Wan.
Gotta do Skywalker Ranch, right?
Luke. Yeah, hit Lucas as well. But so anything else geeky going on? Just
no, just kind of waiting for the next Star Wars or Marvel film or show.
Yeah.
And
have you seen Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, saw it.
What did you think?
I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, but I love Wolverine, obviously. But they're all entertaining, good films, and I think this one was really good. Lots of laughs, lots of homages, and things like that for everyone, I think.
I mean, I literally thought I loved Logan so much, but I thought Hugh brought it, man. I was like, dang, this dude. I mean, not that you're gonna get an Oscar for Deadpool and Wolverine, but I just thought the way he portrayed Wolverine again in this, I just thought it was fantastic. I just thought it was so good. And then
it was good to see him in the yellow suit, and
dude, when he put it, the whole time I'm like, is he gonna put on the hood? Is he gonna like put on the mask? You know? And when they had the big showdown at the end, I'm just like, I lost my mind. I was like, yes, it's great. It's great. But yeah, it was fun. It's the first time in a long time I've been really excited to see a film, you know, and I think it delivered. I thought it was very entertaining, you know.
Definitely.
And I think that the put on the mat, the yellow and blue mask was like my highlight, but then Channing Tatum as Gambit was like so good. It was so good. I was just like, I can't believe they went there, and they did. It was great.
Yeah,
it's great. I just love how when Deadpool's like, who's this dialect coach? I'm just like, so good. Oh man, so good. But yeah, it was cool. Like, you know, again, that's like a deep cut for those people that don't know. Like 20th Century Fox was like, we're gonna make Gambit, and Channing Tatum was like tagged to that, and it just never went anywhere. It just got stuck in script hell or somewhere. I don't know. You know, those things. You could write books on those things. You know, as far as
I actually didn't know that it went back as far as X3. I thought it was just Wolverine Origins, but it goes back to X3. He was supposed to be Gambit in that too.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I just learned that recently. So.
Oh, he was supposed to be appeared in X3 and then probably get his own. Yeah.
And then Wolverine Origins, he had some filming conflict with G.I. Joe, so that's why he's not Gambit in that movie. So.
G.I. Joe. What the heck? That's awesome. Let's see. So Aaron, Carla, and Heather are slacking. They did not write anything in the notes, but last week was SummerSlam. So I'm a big wrestling fan, so watched some SummerSlam, which was kind of cool seeing. I like the big ones. I like WrestleMania, SummerSlam. I like the big wrestling ones. So SummerSlam was on last week, so that was cool. My daughter's birthday was last week, so we got to celebrate that. Olympic fever, watching a lot of Olympics, you know, like seeing what's going on, watch weird sports like I've never seen before, and it's been fun. Have you been watching any Olympics?
I have not. No.
That's okay. All right. Yeah. It's fine. You don't like the nation. That's okay. It's all good. No, it's fine. Yeah. So watching a little Olympics. So we're playing some Fortnite, and Jack Sparrow is one of the characters that they have on there. So my son Trent, he's 11. He's like, hey, Dad, let's watch the Pirate of the Caribbean movie. So we've been on this pirate kick and been rewatching all those. And so, yeah, it's been fun to go back. Those are great movies. And still, to me, like Davy Jones, like, I don't know how they did it back then, but that is some seriously good CGI, and it still holds up today. Yeah. I don't know how they did it. I really don't know how they did it. It's like, it's so good. It's just like unbelievable. I just love that character. So I don't know, man. It's just like Lucasfilm. I don't know, well, that was ILM. I think they're like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're. It's so good. It's so good. So, and then I'm seeing Metallica tomorrow, bro. So.
Oh, wow.
Never see Metallica, but we bought these tickets. Like, me and my buddies were like, hey, you want to go see Metallica? They're coming to town. I'm like, yeah. But it was like, sure, it's probably not been 2 years, but it feels like it's been 3, like, since we bought them, because we thought it was going to be this year or whatever. But no, it's like 2024, and it seemed like forever ago. So, but yeah, it's finally happening. So, Pantera and Metallica, man, I'm just like,
wow,
let's go. So yeah, so that's gonna be in Chicago, Soldiers Field. We're gonna go see that tomorrow, so I'm super excited for that. So
you a Blackhawks fan, or are you not a hockey fan?
I do like hockey. I mean, I followed it a lot more when the Blackhawks were like winning.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, I'm a Sox fan, but they literally tied the longest losing streak. It's like, okay, but the biggest thing for us right now, like with Bears fans, is like, are we staying in Chicago or are we moving out of the city? We'll find out, because we don't own the stadium. The Chicago Park District owns the stadium, so yeah, it's political, so it's like they're the only team that doesn't own like their own building, so they really don't have control. They don't have any control, of it. So it's been a big sticking point, but they have like a ridiculously long lease, so it's not anytime soon, but they're talking about moving out of the city, so we'll see. So are you a football fan, hockey fan?
I haven't been in a long time. I'm a hockey guy, so.
Hockey guy. Okay, that's why you said Blackhawks. I gotcha. So what's your team of choice? What's your team of choice here?
Anaheim Ducks, just because I started being a fan in '93 when they first started.
Nice.
And I was living near there, and it was after the Kings kind of blew it with Gretzky, and I kind of gave up on the Kings, and that's so even though I'm in Houston, I'm still following them. So
the loyalties with Anaheim, huh? The Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks, yeah. Did the movies happen before the franchise or after?
Yeah, so the Mighty Ducks, the first film,
the
Mighty Ducks came out before the team was developed, and they were named after the movie.
They were?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Are you serious? I had no idea. Yeah, that is awesome.
They were the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim until 2006.
Okay.
Where they became the Anaheim Ducks because they had a new owner. Nice. Disney sold, so they lost. They changed the name because of the new owner. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Huh. So you tell me a movie inspired a hockey team's name. That is fantastic.
They used to have Tinkerbell fly around every time someone scored a goal. It was pretty bad. So. Yeah.
Well, it's not the most masculine thing, but it happens.
Yeah.
We got like in Chicago, we got a big old bullhorn. But yeah, so that's awesome, man. Well, I hate to say this, but it's time to put a bow on this episode. So thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. You can find us on the socials. Aaron's at Aaron Julian, Carla at Carla Marie Jack, Heather's at Hawk Awesome. You can find myself at Tizod. We're part of the Red 5 Network, and you can find a whole bunch of wonderfully dysfunctional podcast groups there. And you can follow us at WSTRmedia.com. Want to hear from you, so comment, tweet, rate us on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, and we'll throw some swag right in your face. But you can catch our back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com. We can you got merch store.wstrmedia.com, and then if you want to follow us in a different way, patreon.com/WSTRmedia. Thanks for everyone for hanging out in the YouTube chat. We usually go around 8:30-ish on Thursdays, livestream.wstrmedia.com. Hey, and if you have an idea or you would love someone for, like, you got a connection that would get interview, if you like stuff like collecting and you got like, hey, I got this collector, let us know. Mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail. Yes, you can pick up your phone and actually call somebody. 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. This is where you can leave a voicemail, and we'd love to play it in an upcoming episode. Next week, speaking about Lando, we are going to do a creature feature of Solo, a Star Wars story. We promise that it's going to be more than Rogue One, because Rogue One literally had one creature. Warren, do you know who that creature was? And
I don't remember his name, but it was that big slug.
Well, so you're talking about Bor Gullet, okay? Mm-hmm. And what we do for creature features, like we look at like non-sentient beings, if you will. So
okay,
he's kind of sentient, so he's not really a creature, but he is a cool. I mean, he is a cool creature. Don't get me wrong, but it's called a Spamel, and it's like this long-legged creature that is like literally in one, maybe two shots in Rogue One and Jedha City. Like you blink and you miss him, but you can play him in Jedi Survivor, the latest Star Wars game. I don't know if you're a gamer, but you there's a way to traverse kind of where you're going, and yeah, you can jump on the back of a Spamel. So there you go. But solo, I've done just a little bit more creatures, and of course we'll be talking about there's so many different alien beings in solo that are new, which are always fun, and so we'll be going over that next week. So you wouldn't want to miss that. This is gonna be weird, but I'm gonna do it myself. That's okay. Thanks for listening. Now this is podcasting. Warren, where can people find you?
You can find me on X when I'm on there until recently. Warren Hayes, Warren.Hayes, and on Instagram, Warren L. Hayes 3, if you want to contact me there.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show again, Warren.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.